Hundreds, perhaps over 1,000 members of the Lebanese group Hezbollah have been wounded today when the pagers they used to communicate exploded. This is according to a number of security sources in Lebanon. Now, a Hezbollah official speaking on condition of anonymity described the detonations as the biggest security breach in nearly a year of active conflict with Israel. Explosions were reported in the capital, Beirut, triggering widespread panic, as well as in the south of Lebanon. Iranian media reporting as well that the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon is among those who have been injured. Well, let's cross straight to Beirut on the programme now. Rawad Taha is our correspondent in the Lebanese capital. Rawad, look, this is quite a development today. Just tell us from your end, what appears to have happened.
This could have been described as the most chaotic and unclear security incident that the country has faced since the start of this war in the past year, or perhaps in the last decade. Roughly around 2 hours ago, so it was 4 p.m. Local time here in Beirut, 3:50 p.m., we started receiving reports of a mass number of very small explosions occurring mostly in Beirut's southern suburbs and in the southern part of Lebanon, and also in the Bekaa Valley. Shortly afterwards, preliminary information suggested that wireless communications devices, which you described, known as pagers or beepers, primarily used by Hezbollah members, have exploded. The number of casualties as a result of these explosions is still unclear. However, what we know for a fact, and according to the Ministry of Health in Lebanon, is that the number of injuries have crossed until this point more than 1,000 injuries, including minor injuries, severe injuries, and as I mentioned just a moment ago, the number of deaths resulted from these series of explosions across Lebanon is unclear. Now, let's explain a little bit to the audience what these beepers are, what do we know about them, what these pagers are. Allow me to look at some information that I have gathered within the last hour, because there is just a lot of things that are going on. So the pager is a small electronic device. It's used to receive text messages or notifications without an internet connection. So supposedly these devices are one of the most secure devices for use for military services, for communication in local compounds. Even hospitals and nurses use these devices. For example, if you want to call on a nurse in a certain hospital, nurses usually have pagers or beepers. They have been widely available since the 1900s. Early into 2000s, the use of beepers and pagers was very common. Now, why Hezbollah uses pagers and beepers is particularly, they have thought that these devices are secure enough that they cannot be intercepted, they cannot be tracked. The technicalities of how these devices work is obviously something very complex that needs someone who is very aware of how they function to explain it. But in brief, supposedly these devices are very secure. Now, preliminary information has suggested that this is obviously some sort of an Israeli attack targeting those beepers. How these beepers have exploded, whether due to overheating, whether targeting some sort of a compound or some sort of a piece in that pager, is still unclear. But yes, this is a crazy story. Allow me to use that word. The number of ambulances that have been heard and the sirens heard in the streets of Beirut's southern suburbs, in Beirut, in the southern parts of Lebanon, is insane. Basically, more than 1,000 of these devices have exploded, whether in the pockets, in the hands of mostly Hezbollah members who are using them.
You mentioned Israel. It is important to reiterate at this stage we haven't had any kind of statement from Israel on what it is that is happening today in Lebanon. Just on those that have been injured, there are Hezbollah fighters, of course, as you say. There are also these reports that I'm seeing here that a girl has died. I don't know if you're able to confirm that, but we're also hearing that the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon is among those who apparently had one of these pagers and was injured as well.
Yes, in fact, indeed, the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon, Mushtaba Amani, he had one of those pagers. Now we know for a fact that this could also be very possible that the pagers used by the Iranian embassy are possibly also linked to the pagers used by Hezbollah officials and Hezbollah members as well. So yes, I can confirm the report that you just mentioned. Iran's ambassador to Lebanon, Mushtaba Amani, was injured in the series of explosions that targeted those pager devices. In terms of the number of casualties, it is still very early to confirm. There isn't any concrete number out there, but the number of injuries is above 1,000. Even I'm reading as we speak that the internal security forces has just published an announcement requesting citizens to clear roads as much as possible, to evacuate the injured and to transport them to hospitals. A lot of the hospitals, especially in southern Lebanon and in the southern suburbs of Beirut, have been preoccupied with injuries. Now, this is a rising figure, but we can confirm that more than 1,000 injuries have been confirmed for now by the Lebanese Ministry of Health.
And just a final question for you. You know, the picture you're painting for us, Taha, it does feel a little bit like science fiction, doesn't it? All of these pages exploding at the same time all over the country. And one of the things that is so fascinating about it and why it is such a security breach for Hezbollah is that we now have a sense, or people around them have a sense, as to who is in that group, given who was injured. Obviously, Hezbollah is an organization that tries to keep a lot of that information private.
Exactly. This is a major security breach. Now, we know that obviously intelligence services work around the country. There is a lot. We've seen a lot of those breaches in the past, especially within the last year, with the assassination that happened in Beirut's southern suburb for the Hamas official early in January, with the assassination of the most senior Hezbollah commander, Fuad Shukr, a few weeks back. Now, we've seen that these security breaches within Hezbollah and within Iran's allies in Lebanon is already evident. We've seen that security breaches in the past. We've seen the targeted assassinations and the very precision airstrikes that Israel has carried over the past year in Lebanon. But something at this scale, targeting thousands perhaps of Hezbollah members simultaneously within a matter of minutes across different parts of Lebanon, yes, the right word that you mentioned is this is some sort of a science fiction movie scene.
Rawad Taha, thank you for your reactivity. Thank you for your reporting. It's been great to get your perspective from Beirut this hour. We'll let you go.